It's a great honor to welcome our inspirational, compassionate, empowered, amazing Chancellor, Tammeil Gilkerson. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Let's give another round of applause to Sarah, right? You know that. I feel that all day, every day. And so it's just, sometimes it is the universe. I really believe in the universe speaking to me. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How you doing? Great? Oh, that was like, okay. Yeah. As they're pulling up my slides, come on, good morning. How are you doing? All right? Okay, let's let the Zoom people know they should be here. What's up? So, as always, it's an honor and a privilege to be here today, talking to you all. And today, my theme is walking together. And I really, as always, I am nervous and worried, but I did better. I'm getting better. I'm growing in this work. And so I wanted to say why Sarah's radical love really connects with me is that this time I knew what I was going to wear before, so I planned that. So I did it. I could jump out of the shower at the last minute and actually get into something, so that was helpful. And I was only up till 2 in the morning, so I did get more sleep. And then I woke up at 5:30 to think I was gonna fix things. And then I started to center myself, right? And then the time got away from me and I jumped in the shower. Thankfully, I had an outfit picked out, so that helped with the time. But I'm getting better. And it's in the love and service that I have for you all. So, day 1, January 4th, 2024, my day 1. And what you see in the image here that I'm going to tell you about is actually what I wrote. So I started in January saying, how do I write my intentions for the day? How do I show up in a different way for this community? And so the first bullet was lead with love, center radical love, and student success. Can you believe that Sarah's topic was radical love? And actually what I wrote was this: we did not talk to each other. We did not know anything. The universe has put us in this place. Be a conduit and a connector for hope. Make people feel seen, heard, and appreciated. Show up authentically. Get in good trouble, right? Remember, you are not defined by the job. And then I had these notes: listen and ask questions. This is day 1, me getting ready to go into that office, right? Nervous. And then I wrote a note of gratitude. All of the encouragement, excitement, and support I've received from colleagues and loved ones who believe in me and the passion I feel for Peralta. The colleges, employees, and students. Without their support, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I've told you that when I came. I stand on the shoulders of all of these individuals who have believed in, my capacity to learn and to grow and to try my very best for you. And then at the bottom, and it's crazy because I didn't realize this until I was putting this together last night, I wrote profoundly grateful, obviously. I really do. I felt profoundly grateful on January 4th and even leading up to it, right? That I was going to get the chance to come back here. And then I wrote believe. And yesterday, crazy enough, I was with the managers. We have an incredible management team in this district. And I got a gift over the holidays of a sweatshirt that said believe. And I was wearing it yesterday. And I asked all of the managers to say what their word, and I brought the word believe. And I went back and saw this, and I thought, wow, the universe. So this was my commitment the day that I started, and I've gone back to evaluate, how have I done? What have I done? And so this has been part of the journey for me, is the accountability to growing, to showing up, to thinking through these pieces of my own life and leadership and my relationship with all of you and with what we need to contend with and do in the district. So paper is the first anniversary. Did you know that? Did y'all give me a gift? I'm waiting for gifts. No? Okay. I did get a Gilkerson administration joke from President Goldstein at the board meeting the other night, the era of it. But it is my first anniversary, and traditionally you get paper. And so I, though, this year got 187 tons of, across our district, we actually did a cleanup of things that had not been done for decades. And you all, the winning number was 187 tons of stuff that we recycled, we reused, we got rid of. It was like taking the burden off of us, 187 tons. And I want to ask you, I was like, what is even 187 tons? My brain just does not think that way, right? So how many cement trucks do you think is 187 tons? Somebody tell me, 187 tons. 50. Any other guesses? 37. Okay, let's pull up the 100. Okay, let's pull up my slide and we will. So it is 17. 17 cement trucks, right? Okay, perspective, right? I got it. I was like, what's 187 tons? Okay, tell me how many Cat 9 tractors is 187 tons. Let's guess. For 30, okay, 5, okay. 4, so we're in. Hey, people kind of know what the weight is. All right, okay. All right, mid-size SUVs, how many of those? I know y'all drive them. Come on. Okay, lots of numbers. It is 150 mid-size SUVs. This might not be hauling your family, your dogs, and your friends, but it's 150 of that. How many humpback whales? Yeah, okay, good guesses. It's hard, right? 5.5. 5.5. I mean, that's a lot of, they got to have all that belly fat to keep them warm in the ocean, right? So, and then how many 747s? I think it's 747s. That looks like a 747, right? How many? Half? Half of a 747. Okay, yeah, these are good guesses. It is 1.5. Look at you over there knowing some stuff, Ava. Okay. And how many, semis? Yeah, right? So about 5. Okay, but now I'm gonna just go even for all my science friends. How many megawatts of energy, if you turn 187 tons into energy, what would it be? Somebody smart out here knows. It is 1.3 megawatts of energy. So this isn't really a gift, I guess, but it is. It was a gift to me. But you know what I did get? I did get a paper gift. And I got, it's not 187 tons worth, but 400,000 reams of colored paper. That's what 187 tons is 400,000 reams of paper. And I wrote colored paper because one of the things we found in the cleanup was pallets and pallets and pallets and pallets of colored paper that had not been used in the warehouse. So let me just tell you that it was distributed across the district. I am using pink paper right now. I will use blue next. And we are not buying paper until we use this paper, right? So I kind of got paper for my anniversary, right? Kind of cool. It's not personalized, but I love it. But I think part of this is part of the work that we've been doing over this last year to really transform the district and pull out the things. We had not done, hazardous waste pickup for over 5 years. So it's sitting in piles and piles in the buildings and offices. And so we have cleaned out many of those things, the rudimentary and everyday things that we needed to do, we are starting to do with fidelity. And so, not bad for an anniversary, right? So other paper I got was, and everybody's gonna laugh, at least who's been in any meetings with me, is I use a lot of Post-it notes. I'm old school about work that we do. And so over the course of the year, we use so many Post-it notes in our brainstorming sessions and our listening sessions. I have colored paper Post-it notes everywhere saying these things. And that picture right there is why we serve was from our governance retreat. It was really trying to get to the depth of what we are. And then ultimately, my best and proudest gift, and I think President Goldstein talked about this, is the gift of the new shared governance manual. After being in draft form since 2017, and so I don't even know how long since then, we came together. It took almost a year, but we came together to talk about the principles and the things that we want from each other, how we're gonna do it differently. Why do we gotta do it the old way? And this document is on the PBIM website. We've come around to all the colleges to present about it. I'm not gonna go into super depth about it, but you should read it. It is a new way of being together in community to talk about the things that we're doing. I know you're like, oh gosh, Tammeil, to get excited about a governance manual, but it is. And I want to thank Marcus Krill for his wonderful, work, making it look beautiful. Thank you, Marcus. So I want to read you a part of it because I think it's important that I just show you what we're trying to do, what this group of students, classified professionals, faculty and administrators came together to vision what we want to do together, shared work, right? So one part of this, if I can have is in the manual we wrote this, why we participate, centering students. Through shared governance, our purpose is to give back to our community and pay it forward in service to our students, supporting them in discovering and realizing their educational potential. We aim to provide representation for students who feel unheard, ensuring every voice is valued. By reporting facts as they are, not as they seem to be, we empower students and strengthen our society. We believe in the transformative power of education, which offers the greatest opportunity to change one's worldview, material circumstances, and self-image. We are committed to achieving equality and justice through education, making it accessible to all demographics. And then we say, we aim to transcend traditional governance models by fostering an environment that reflects the inclusive and empowering nature of our classrooms. We should model the learning we want to do, right? Our objective is to collaborate meaningfully, shifting from individual efforts to collective understanding and actions. By building a governance structure grounded in shared values and community commitments, we enable collective action. We enable collective action marked by urgency and hope. This approach strengthens our district community, rooted in the support of education and the empowerment of students, employees, and the broader community. I am so proud of this. I am so proud of the work that went into this. I am proud that the values of what we're doing in the classroom transform lives are going to be modeled by us with each other in community. And I really want to join me in giving a round of applause to everybody who participated in the visioning of this. And so, but words on paper are only words on paper, right? Right? So we have to work very hard and diligently together to make this become reality. And so I encourage you to read the governance manual or go back and listen to the presentations that were done at the Planning and Budget Committee district-wide, at each of your colleges. And then also this really is the organizational chart. So it shows you here what these committees are. We've codified several district governance committees: Facilities Committee, Holistic Safety and Wellness, Student Success and Enrollment Management, and the District Technology Committee. And it leads to our primary governance committee, similar to you at the colleges, where you have College Council or the round table at BCC, where that is our District Planning and Budget Committee. So recommendations come up. But you'll see there are lines between, because we should be recursive and talking to each other, right? The one thing that happens at one committee shouldn't be siloed, and it should be talked about, right? Because if you make a decision in one committee and it's not connected to the other committee, you get a stopgap. It's time to stop breaking it down and not thinking traditional ways about the way we're doing things. And you'll see here we've called out how college governance committees also connect to this. And thereby, you see, again, our college presidents and college councils giving recommendations to the committees and to the District Planning and Budget Committee. And you'll see in the new governance manuals that the colleges will be coming forward for the first time to talk about budget needs and things like that, their plans, what they need, right? This is the first time we've been disconnected, right, from the colleges to the district. How do we build this community together? And then on the left side, you saw that there was senates. So we have our senates also who provide feedback and recursive sort of relationship in part of this thing. So it is an ecosystem, but it only works if we work it, right? Like we have to be invested in it because it doesn't work without that investment. And one other thing I want to point out, which is very different, is we're using a totally different model. We are doing an appreciative engagement. You've all heard of appreciative inquiry. We kind of took from that and said, let's do an appreciative engagement model so that we're not just sitting and hearing the same reports over and over and over again at every committee meeting, but we're actually saying, what's the problem? Let's define the problem together. What are we trying to solve, right? Let's go out and research like the best minds, what we do in the classroom with our students. Let's us go out and discover what could be solutions to those things. Who else is doing it? What does the research say? How do we think about it, right? I know. I'm kind of excited about it, because I want to hear these things. So it is those pieces. And then we come back and talk about it. We define it together. We think through. It's discover, define, discover. I need my slide because I can't remember. Yeah, okay. Dream. Oh my gosh, how could we not be freed in dreaming, right? This is the opportunity. We dream together, share those things. We design out what we think we want, and then we decide and deliver. We say we're going to go forward, and how are we going to go forward, right? So that is a very, very different model, but it's going to take active engagement. It's going to take a community commitment to doing it, and it's going to be new for us. So we're going to ask for grace and patience, and we're also implementing it mid-year, right? So it's kind of a little wonky, but that's okay. Wonky's good, right? We can do it. I believe in us and our ability. All right. So I think it's important, and you heard President Sanseri say, Jeff, give comments about just sort of what's happening nationally. And I'm not going to, talk about the 20th or, what's happening to usher in, because you all know, deeply, right, that we have an assault on certain things, that we need to be mindful about what we're doing, that the divestment in education continues, and much of the assault on communities of color, undocumented, queer identified folks, right? And you are doing the work at your campuses to continue to make sure that students in our community know that this is a place for them. And we have protections in place. The presidents have emailed you about those things, right? So you want to make sure that you know that, and you can tell your students about what it is. We have a commitment to making sure that this is an inclusive learning environment for them and that they feel safe when they're here in the district community, when they're on our campuses and doing things. And if there is a concern, call. tell us, right? Allow us to help support you and our students. And you have that infrastructure at your colleges and both at the district office. But I think it's important to really highlight the trends that are going on nationally in education. And it's just because we are at an inflection point for our district. I looked back at the things I talked to you about in the fall, and I need to impress upon us all like sort of what it is. So I want to kind of share some of these things. So this report from Knocking at the College Door is from the Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education. And this really is a seminal report that's been put out since 1979. It's put out and it's used for policymakers and other people to understand what's going on with high school students. And the data really is compelling, and I think we should be paying attention to what it says. So there is going to be a peak, and it's right now, and a decline in high school graduates nationally. So you see this, the number of high school graduates in the U.S. is projected to peak in 2025 at 3.9 million and declining by 13% to 3.4 million in 2041. And really, this is a product of the decline in birth rates, right, since the Great Recession. So this isn't like, oh my God, it's your fault, whatever. This is just the reality that economists and everybody have been telling us for a long time. And now it's on our doorstep. We have hit the peak, my friends. And so what you see here is another graph that I put in so that you could see kind of how it's happening in 3 stages. So from, right, so you can see it projected out where there's going to be the declines, but you can see what this is that K through 12 is already grappling with it. If you've paid attention to what's happening in OUSD, what's happening in San Francisco, there are too many schools for the amount of children who are coming through, and so the pipeline is getting smaller. So while this report focuses on graduates, it's absolutely at the doorstep of many of our, right, school districts. How are we thinking about these things? So here you can see projections, and this is the West only. The report has other states, but you can see here that the South really, and it's not on this slide, is expected to grow, have modest growth in high school graduates, while other regions, the West, which is up here, Midwest, and Northeast face declines. And you can see here, California alone will account for 3/4 of the projected decline in the West. Right? The projected 13% decline in high school graduates by 2041 means that colleges and universities will face smaller enrollment pools. We already are. And particularly of traditional age students, right? And so it's, you know, the data is speaking to us very, very loudly, and how are we willing to respond? So let's talk a little bit about community college enrollments, recovery post the pandemic. So this is from the Community College Research Center, the Teachers College at Columbia University. They do dashboards and work like this. And so you can see this graph. You can see it here. And California has a negative 7% right here. And so what this is, there's really been a limited recovery, right, of enrollments since pre-pandemic, since 2019. And only 27% of community colleges have regained enrollments. And the overall enrollment trend is it was increased over 6 million in fall 2023, up from 5.74 million, but it still hasn't met, it's significantly lower than where we were before. So we are already seeing sort of what's going on. And there's variations among states, as you can see. So it makes it very difficult, right? We're contending with like not only federal policy changes, but what happens in our state, right? We're going to be experiencing that with the new administration too. And then our state will make laws. And so it's a lot of things that we're having to contend with. But this is what policymakers are looking at, right? And they're not on the ground with us sometimes. So it's very, very hard. And here is some other things. So high school enrollment, students under 18 participating in dual enrollment. So the largest increase was in dual enrollment. But then you saw the data right before, right? Okay, so I just want to make sure, yeah. So you can see this, we grew by 26% during the pandemic, and look at this for California, 40% growth in dual enrollment. Largest decline in the West, right? Like, so again, it's incredible what we're doing, but it's important to know, right, this is only going to last for so long, and we need to be thinking thoughtfully about what that is. And dual enrollment grew 72% of community colleges from 2019 to 2023, while only 18% of community colleges, right, grew enrollments of 18 to 24-year-olds, so that traditional age college student. Here is a percent change in enrollment for Latinx students, Hispanic students per this. And really what you see, it varied, right? So there are demographic disparities with age, by race and ethnicity, with older adults and certain racial and ethnic groups. And for instance, only 18% of community colleges fully recovered enrollments, again, like I said, from 18 to 24-year-olds. And then nationally, you'll see here, among Hispanic students, almost fully recovered in 2023 to 2019 levels, but 2/3 of community college nationally had fully recovered fall enrollment. However, California continues to be one where we are losing Latinx identified students. And then, so how do we sort of think about this? So challenges from these report on, sort of what's going on for us, right? So increased competition. It's just the fact that we're going to have increased competition. It's institutional overcapacity, right? Many colleges, especially the smaller ones, are going to have trouble. And we happen to be, in a geographic location with a lot of colleges. So it's just, again, something for us to think about and consider. And then we've got recruitment pressure. You can see that there, aggressively smaller pools, so we're all rushing after the same thing. We often kind of do that even in our multi-college district here. And then the over-reliance on dual enrollment. And so again, this is not to say I'm not a supporter of dual. I absolutely 100% am. 6 units of college credit is transformative for the data, right? For how students go on. They're often not choosing us next, though. Do you get what I mean? They're coming to us for dual enrollment and then they're leaving, absolutely, right, to go to that 4-year college or university to do something else. So I believe it's an important part of the pathway. We shouldn't just think, right, about that, but how do we think about what that next step is? Community colleges are offering baccalaureate degrees in certain things. How are we thinking about CE pathways, right? In real work of getting folks to work and actually talking through that and funding that growth and support in the areas that we know. If you listen, and I'm excited about the panel later, right? The governor's proposal on a master plan for career education. It's certainly a workforce Pell bill is in the federal government, right? To fund Pell for workforce. So there is a movement afoot. We should be paying attention, and we are well positioned, frankly, if we do some tweaks, to be prepared with the incredible CE programs we have in this district. Unparalleled, right? Okay, sorry, I need to rely on my slides. So we've got persistent pandemic losses. I don't need to tell you this, right? Learning loss, mental health support for students is part of what the report talks about. Financial sustainability. Across the board, this is an issue. Reduced revenue, just period, right? Declining enrollments, those kind of things. And we've talked and talked and talked and talked about it for us. And it certainly is the case as Hold Harmless comes to an end and we are no longer eligible for COLA. In our funding formula and how we're doing because of our reduced enrollments. And there really just is uncertainty in the state, right? So the governor just put out his proposal just last week. Yesterday I held with statewide partners a discussion on the budget, but we just had the fires. And so, a lot of thoughts and prayers to our community in Southern California who are grappling with this, but it has huge implications for the state in terms of revenue and what will happen, not only what we bring in, but what we put out to support really harmed communities right now. And, there's been a lot of talk about Pacific Palisades and how rich everybody is and whatever, but I'm telling you, Altadena has been decimated, and that is Black and brown communities, my friends, right? So it is not just this, and it's not worth saying who's who and what's what, right? It is our state, and we experienced it in Northern California, and I gotta tell you, we could experience it here with the light of a flame, and I pray it doesn't happen. But we've been here before in Oakland. We've risen from the ashes. We know what this is about, but it takes decades and years to do it, right? And skepticism of higher education. I mean, you've seen all the stories, right? What's the value of a college degree? Why do it? And right, our students are kind of telling us this too, right? In many, many ways. So that's part of the things. And the need for policy and structural reforms, how we're funded, retention and completion, what we're doing around that, and broader state and federal policies around affordability. And I'm really excited because I lead the statewide task force, and Dr. Beslikoff also serves on the Affordability, Food, and Housing Task Force. I've been on it since 2018. I'm desperately passionate about basic needs support for students, and we are about to launch a statewide survey again on the real experiences of college students so that we can understand their needs, and all 4 of our colleges are gonna participate, and I'm hoping we're gonna have incredible student data so that actually we can really understand how to better meet their needs. But this has implications for policy. There's another statewide bill that's come back again saying, we want you to open your parking lots for students to sleep in them. It's not a solution. I love you, legislators. It's not a solution. It is not a livable place for folks to be. Safety, security, access to, just all of these things. And we see this, right, with our unhoused community and things like this. It's very, very difficult. I don't know how they do it. I'm glad I'm not here. It's hard enough, So this is the landscape nationally. So it isn't, I want you to tell you, it isn't just us, right? It is a phenomenon that's happening across the nation, our states. And so I just want us to be mindful of that. So let me transition a little bit now to our district enrollment. So I want to say thanks to, getting the new Fast Facts up on the website for fall 2024. You can see, I've shown this before, our demographics, and they look a lot the same. Generally, we're down a little bit from the fall before. But what I want to point out here again is the continual decline of our male student population. The continual decline of males enrolling at our colleges. And so what are we going to do? And here's enrollment by location. I think it's important for us to see. You can see these numbers. Some like the map, some like the numbers. But what I'll say is, again, 48% of our students come from Oakland. 48%. But you see here, 29% are outside of Peralta. So people are coming to us for our programs. Those are the 2 largest areas, right, where students are coming for our work. So how do we think broadly about the students that are actually coming to us? How does that show up in our services, in our classroom? Not assuming everybody knows everything, right? Those are important things. And you can get this on the IR website. Here's just some general statistics, again, about our students and our degrees and certificates that we did last year. So this is for the academic year last year. So we've got about 1,000 students who transferred to UC and CSU. It's excellent, right? We've got all of these graduates with certificates and degrees that we've given. But right here you see, again, 43% of our students attend at least 2 Peralta colleges and 17% more than 2, right? It's incredible. It's amazing. It's this opportunity for students to get what they need at all of our colleges. So I embrace, like I told you in the fall, the swirl. How do we think about it more? So let's talk about the trends. So some of you, we've had this conversation where everybody's talking about what's going on in the budget, what's going on in the budget. And this year, with my commitment to you, I talked about it in the fall at Flex. We've done town hall meetings on the budget. We came to campuses. We did a large presentation to the Board of Trustees. And so I'm going to highlight some of the things. So some of it for some of you may be repetitive, but I think it is important for you to know how serious and nervous and anxious and all of those things I am about it. This is incredibly serious time for our district and a time for us to think about what we were talking about with the shared governance pieces. So our FTS decline over district-wide over the 10 years is here. You can see just the bar graph alone. This is our full-time equivalent students. So for those of you who remember, it's not head count, it's students and how we're funded, right? So 12 plus units could be made up with 5 students, it could be made up with 1 student, okay? And this is the 10-year FTS history by college. So you can see here that this gray line is Laney College, blue is Berkeley City College, you've got the College of Alameda in this orangish red color, and Merritt College in this yellowish color. So that's sort of the trend over the last 10 years for our colleges, which make up the district total. And here is the data set that really shows a report. This is how we get apportionment, so we get funded. So the number maybe look different than what's in our fast facts or things like that, but this is what we report to the state and helps generate the funding that we receive from them in apportionment. And you can see here that our FTS totals since 2014-15, where it was at 19,503, and it's gone up and down here. In 2021-22 was at 11,775, and this last year was at 13,452. 13,452. So let me put it into context for you again. So here, for you, is how we get funded, remember? So this blue line is our funded. We are in a state where the state has given what we call a hold harmless. It said, we're gonna hold you harmless for what you were able to do, 2017, and we're holding you to this year. This is our year. Either you get up to where you were funded, or you are no longer eligible for COLA. We are no longer eligible for COLA, I'll just tell you, going into next year. And the COLA is projected at 2.43, like 2.43%, I think, around there for next year, right? So we will not get that COLA to our base and our allocation. So I want to give you a sense of our FTS compared to other 4 college districts. So there are 2 other 4 college districts in the state. There are 72 districts, and there are 3 that are 4 college districts. Los Rios, which is in Sacramento area, right? State Center, which is in the Central Valley, and then us here in the Bay. And so you can kind of see where we're at in comparison. Here we are with like-sized districts. So again, taking a look at like-sized districts across the state, this is important here. So where our FTS is kind of matching them, so Cerritos, Southern California, Charlotte, Las Positas, you know this, Hayward, Livermore, Chaffee, Southern California, Palomar, San Bernardino in Southern California, Sierra way up high, Southwestern down at the border in San Diego, right? Yosemite. Hopefully we know where Yosemite is. Really beautiful if you haven't gone. And here again is the FTS, but you see here the number of colleges for the FTS size. We're the only district with 4 colleges making that FTS. And here is compared, we have this thing called the Bay 10. We're the Bay 10, woo! So we're the Bay 10, and here we are with our colleagues just in our Bay area. So you see us here, we've added Sonoma, and you see here again where the FTS lies. So here's Peralta, 4 colleges, and you see the number of colleges other districts have. And then I want to point out to you that these little asterisks is that they're community funded districts. So that means that their tax base in their area gets more revenue than what they would get from apportionment, so from the state giving them money, so they're community funded. So they have a lot more flush with resources than we are based on the funding formula. So it's just important, again, stating facts as they are, right? That's one of the commitments to what we have, and so that's what I'm trying to show you here. So we've also had fiscal trends over the years, and you know what I mean? I really, it's a hard slide to look at, and it's maybe hard a little bit to understand. We tried to explain it in the roadshow in October, but basically there's been ways where we actually as a district for years now have not been making what we're getting funded at. And there have been ways in which the district can do that by borrowing from the next year in the summer and bringing that into the year to get funded at a higher level. So we did some borrowing from upcoming terms. We utilized state opportunity stabilization funding and pieces like that. We froze positions, right? $4.5 million to cover a deficit in 18-19. I think we took a furlough, if I remember, right? There are cuts that have happened, and we have cuts after cuts after cuts. So you see $8.3 million of stabilization funding that we got, $21 million in hold harmless funding that we got, and this last year, $10.1 million in funding that the state has given it that we hadn't earned, right? So, and absolutely, the district should be scrapping and trying to do everything we can, but again, state, national trends and where we at is really important for you to see. So, I've showed you these slides. I'm not going to go over there a lot. This is a moment in time. I showed this to you in fall. This was the reductions. We took this last year, $11 million across the district, and we actually used a way, and I talked about this, about using vacancy savings, which we hadn't before, but that's not a sustainable practice. I was trying to stave off additional cuts to you mid-year when I came in. So this was a way to kind of do that, to give us a little runway, to have the conversations on your campuses, to do the work that needs to be done, to talk about the programs and what we can and can't do. And the number's gone up significantly, frankly, because there are things that happen as a la Peralta, right, where we got unexpected. Emergencies happening, funds that we didn't know, collective bargaining agreements that we had to fund that we didn't realize that we did, COLA, other things like that. So let me give you a short look at this. So this was in November. So I'm just keeping consistent slides so you can see it, but this includes the 1.07 COLA across the board that we gave. We had the vacancy savings. You'll see here, we had a 10% increase in health insurance costs with an increase. And then we had an increase in something called the deficit factor. I won't go into my teaching about it, but basically it's like an IOU from the state saying, I don't know if I'm gonna give you the money, but so hold back kind of thing. So we don't know if we're gonna get the cash. And they change it up and down and you have to make cuts. And so we got that mid-year and had to do that. And so let me just show you this. So this is this year's budget. We had to do those additional cuts, right? So 6.5 is where we're at. We projected out. We built budget books so you could project out farther, and the projection for next year is around $13 million. What we've done here is we pulled over the temporary savings we have. We've reduced the $6 million that we identified for vacancy savings to $3 million, right? Being more judicious and in line with probably what's right. And then we pulled these cuts over like they were happening. So next year, this is what we're looking like. And if we can't take everything that we were supposed to do this year, it'll be added to next year, right? But if next year we're able to do the $13 million, this then gets built in here, and that $21 million that we have to cut next year or the following year comes down by the 13, so it's $7 million. But man, oh man, y'all, how can you cut to the bone? You're already to the bone. These are the conversations we've been having all year. We're going to continue to have. It is, somebody said, this guy, I said it at the Laney study session, people are like, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. I don't want to be the one. I want to be the leader who's like, yay, let's all do fun, let's show love and blah, blah. And then I'm like, the only way that I can show radical love to you is to tell the truth and to help lead you in a place that's going to help us. And it's not going to serve us to not know it and put our heads in the sand and not realize that this is the situation that we're in. And so we have to rely on the vision of the governance thing that we have. So let me scroll on. So this is the reductions by location that are proposed right now. It was presented to the Planning and Budget Committee in December. You can see it there. That's where, again, and there may be changes, right? So a reduction in the deficit factor. So this is because we're not meeting our reserve policy. So if you saw on that other line, I didn't actually, if I go back a slide, you'll see down here, we're only at 14.9. We're not meeting our policy right now. So that would mean a greater reduction if we're going to meet 16.67. That isn't baked in there yet. So I wanted to explain what that is. So to meet that board reserve policy, this is where that cut comes from. And then we have a deficit factor reversal. So again, if the state tells us about the IOU, but what we're planning for is around a total reduction here of 13, and then we're taking this out, so it might be 11 that we're planning for. But this is what it looks like across the district. And this visual was just helpful to people. I showed it in fall. I've showed it at every meeting. But this just shows you, right, that even if we're able to come up, the line, so this lower line here, beige line, is our actual FTS. That's how we get funded. The TCR funding is where, again, it's been flat. So that's our total computational revenue. That's what we've been funded. And then our projection of our actual needs and expenses. Expenses continue to grow. It's more costly, right? Inflation, those particular things and everything. We all are feeling it. The district is too, right? This is the thing. This is all of the pieces of the pie. So it gives you just a visual for those of you who are visual to kind of understand what we're at. So we've got a lot of challenges for long-range planning. I'm not going to go super deep into too many of them, but again, I've already talked about the reserve policy. We don't have money set aside for deferred maintenance. We've been doing a lot of work on the facilities here and across the district trying to get that done. A lot of Laney projects just came out of DSA. We're building the building at BCC. We're trying to address things at COA, right? And the district office, things are kind of falling apart every day, frankly, right? But we don't have money set aside to help us do this, right? So we're scraping to try to make sure that we can address the things that you need. We've got the ongoing costs, right, of the scheduled maintenance. We have an OPEB trust, so we have trust funds. This is very complicated, but basically money set aside for employee health benefits for our retirees and for our employees, right? And we have to pay obligations on that. We have not been doing it. We need to be paying that. It's a major liability for the district. We are the only district in the state who has it. It is pretty significant to us, and it has implications for our ratings. It has implications for, long-term fiscal stability and our accreditation. And so we have to begin to address it. And we have a promise and a commitment to people too. So we should address it, right? It's the responsible thing to do. We have the increasing demands of health insurance. I don't need to tell you this. Increased PERS, our pension rates, right? So retirement. And the outstanding student debt. We haven't even begun to talk about the $37 million in outstanding student debt that we have on the books. We've got ongoing fiscal monitoring by ACCJC. So, right, I talked about accreditation and our hold harmless funding going away here with the continuing rise. And then the Chancellor's office changes in the deficit factor, the IOU portion. So how do we kind of plan for cash flow and those particular things? I know, people wanted inspiration, and I feel like there's nobody I would bet on but us. It's time to buck the trend, my friends. I really believe that we can do it, that we have this opportunity to do it together. I just need you to actually believe it's an issue. And even though I've been talking all since I've been here, I just kind of feel like people don't think it's an issue. And, or it's not gonna happen. And it's already been happening, and it is going to happen. But I believe, right, that we can have a new vision for the district where we have to set aside what we sort of think consistently about what it is we are and who we are and what we are, and look at the trends and look at what it's saying and really think about how do we use what I told you about abundance. We do have a lot of money to spend in new ways or right ways or reconfigured ways, right? It's not like we're, right? We got 140 something million dollars just in the general fund, right? We have dollars. So I want to talk about Ricky Henderson. So how many of you heard? So he died 5 days before his 66th birthday, right? Oakland, Ricky Henderson, the Man of Steel, right? I mean, like this man redefined baseball in a time when it wasn't for television, y'all, right? Like it wasn't for television, and he came with flash and vigor and said, I'm gonna change the game. He changed the game with free agency. He was one of the first ones to do it, change the whole salary structure for baseball. Everybody after that has done these things, right? He came. He was like, I am going to assert myself, right? The game now is trying to go back to what Ricky was back in the day. They're looking for engagement, flamboyant players, right? They're making bases bigger so people can steal. I mean, right? I mean, that's what they're trying. They want the game to be more exciting. They are going back to, so we should look no farther than Ricky Henderson and ignite sort of that thing. I was so sad the next day, the day after that. And what was painful to me was that they left Oakland and then he passed after he made a bid to own Oakland, to own it. Let me say this again. He made a bid that they did not accept to own the Oakland A's. And now the Oakland A's are no longer the Oakland A's, but they're the A's in Sacramento. The lesson is here for us. So, this is from his Hall of Fame induction speech. To all the kids out there, follow your dreams. Believe in your dream because dreams do come true. When you think of me, I would like you to remember that kid from the inner city who played the game with all his heart and never took the game for granted. My friends, we cannot take this moment for granted. The roles that you have in every capacity, it is important. He came to this college, Laney College, when he was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he took a speech class so he could give his speech. I watched it again last night. He came here. It was one of the first stories that somebody told me when I became the president of Laney College, reminding me how important it was, right, that he did that. So this last year has been pretty incredible. So on New Year's Eve this year, I ended up getting to be with friends in Southern California, and they do a vision boarding party. And I was like, all right, I haven't done it before. And you all saw when I first came, I showed you the vision board that has traveled with me from place to place to place. This is the first time I've redone a vision board in all those years. So since I started in community colleges to now, and I'm sharing it with you. And I sat at a table and was furiously cutting things from magazines, just whatever spoke to me. I was going through all of these things and then putting together and collaging. And I mean, it was like up to almost 11:59 where I was like, I need to make sure it says the word whatever. You know, I mean, I was like so engrossed. And then when I stepped back and look at it, this is you. This is my love for you. This is my love for this community. You were on my heart, and as we're thinking about all the things we have to do together, this is my vision board, is really just trying to grow in my own way. And so you might not see these, there's a bullseye. And I put community friendship and a shared sense of uplift, get the job done. It must evolve. It must evolve. The audacity, the possibility, let's shake it up. Right? Get it done. I'm a mother goddess too. I kind of put that in there, right? Mother goddess. A new leaf. How do we be authentic? Which is what I wrote a year ago, right? And embracing the basics, getting back to the basics. It doesn't have to be fancy, right? I do dream. You know that I've had a lot of not safe in the last year. So I said home, safe home, calling in some safety, personal safety for me. New directions, here to love and support, celebrate, right? The power of persistence. Cheers to health. I did put a little swag for the little, do you see the high heels and the stockings? I know, you need a little coming through. But here's the thing, I have always believed in this district, we can rise to each other. There are new directions, and I want us to make every moment count. I'm calling on you. I asked you to join me in the fall. I am telling you now, I get down on my knees. I'm happy to do it, right? It is time. You must join. You must walk with me. We must walk together. It is going to be tough. It is not going to look the same here. It can't. It just literally can't. Jimmy Carter, I'd rather think about Jimmy Carter than, right? I have one life and one chance to make it count for something. I mean, when you watch this, like when you think about the legacy, right? I am free to choose that something. You are free to choose whether you're here with us in this endeavor. My faith depends that I do whatever I can, wherever I can, whenever I can, for as long as I can. And that resonates with me. That is the quote that I sent the board. You remember I told you I sent quotes every week to the board? This was my New Year's quote to them. I am committed to you and to trying to walk with you together in this endeavor. And I'm grateful for the year I've had. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful for those of you who walked alongside and for you who keep serving the district with such heart and integrity. I do believe we have an opportunity to move forward and do things differently. And so I'm going to end now with a thanks. And this was me wearing my Ricky Henderson gear the day after he passed. I was out in town and everybody was like, absolutely. So go ahead, Alejandro. Thank you.
Walk with me, I'll walk with you. Down these troubled roads we've stumbled into. We're all in this thing together. We're gonna make it through. If you walk with me, I'll walk with you. Be there for me, I'll be there for you. When we're running out of hope, when we don't know what to do, like a candle in the darkness, shining bright and true. Be there for me, I'll be there for you. Oh, everything is gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright. Alright. 'Cause you and me got better days coming. Yeah, everything is gonna be alright. Walk with me, I'll walk with you. I know the rain of today will bring tomorrow's bloom. Where we can't see where we're going, what the world is coming to. You walk with me, I'll walk with you. Gonna be alright. Walk with me. Gonna be alright. Ooh, I will walk with you. Alright, anything. Oh, walk with me. Gonna be alright. And I will walk with you. It's gonna be everything. It's gonna be alright. Everything. I will walk with. Gonna be alright. Ooh, gonna be alright. Everything. And I will walk with. Gonna be alright. I will walk with. Gonna be alright. Gonna be alright. Walk with me. I will walk with you.
Thank you to Marcus Creel for creating the video and for Mark Johnson for his help. Have a wonderful rest of the day and a wonderful spring semester. Thank you.
Every time the Chancellor speaks, I get emotional. Even the hard topics, radical love. Thank you for that. I really felt that. All right, so we're gonna take a break, 15 minutes. Don't go away. When you come back, we're going to highlight our awesome CE programs at each college.